Khamzat Chimaev dominated Dricus du Plessis tonight on his way to becoming the champ. 50-44 across the board. It was takedown after takedown after takedown. Everything he did worked. He was the biggest favorite as a challenger in UFC title history. He proved that. They were right. He is the man now.
Joe Rogan didn't just react to Khamzat Chimaev's title win. He lit a fuse under the entire middleweight picture. After 5 rounds of suffocating top pressure and surgical control, the judges in Chicago all wrote the same numbers, 50-44. It wasn't a cliffhanger, it was a statement. The kind that resets a division overnight and forces everyone, fighters, fans, and matchmakers, to ask the same question. Who can actually push this man into deep water?
Were you surprised you couldn't get him out of there over the course of the 5 rounds?
No, just was working on him, so I had some cool time on that there. So just spoke with him, spoke with his coach. Middle of the fight, was happy.
What kind of things were you saying?
I said, good job, work harder, guys.
I mean, he's got 3 former champions on the ledger, does du Plessis, right? Adesanya Strickland and Robert Whittaker. But now when you look at this division owned by Khamzat Chimaev, there are a lot of guys who can really grapple, Joe, at the top of the division. So some exciting fights beckon in the future.
Absolutely. Rainier de Ridder in particular, given his ability to grapple on the ground. And, you know, and also his ability to land shots standing, particularly that knee that he lands.
Toughness, is nasty. Experience.
He throws those combinations with that long lead-in knee. You know, he's interesting.
The first answer is that nobody walked out of UFC 319 believing the belt changed hands by accident. The way Chimaev grabbed momentum early, dragged the fight to the floor, and never really gave it back told you everything about his priorities. There was no gambling on a one-shot finish. He chose control, damage, and demoralization. The kind of measured violence that wears on a champion's lungs and mind at the same time. That's why the conversation afterward wasn't about whether Dricus du Plessis deserved a rematch. It was about who could even slow the new king down. The tone from the top matched the scorecards. This was one-way traffic.
For Dricus to come back from that and bridge the gap between him and Khamzat, that is a tall task.
Yeah.
It's a tall task, because that kind of dominance, that kind of grappling dominance was not just a level, it was multiple levels. And it just didn't seem like he had any answer for that. I don't know who he brought in to train with him, but clearly he didn't bring in anybody that had that kind of skill.
And yet the most interesting name tossed into the fire didn't come from the rankings ladder. It came from Joe Rogan. He pointed at Rainier de Ridder, a long, awkward grappler who can chain wrestle into back takes and punish you with that stabbing lead-in knee. If you're hunting for someone who won't panic as Chimaev climbs the body and clamps a wrist, de Ridder is the type who might unhook a leg, frame, and make you pay for overcommitting. He's not the obvious pick. That's precisely why he's compelling. Since moving to the UFC in late 2024, he's been perfect, and his handling of Bo Nickel this spring made analysts look twice at his anti-wrestling instincts. Rogan's point wasn't that he's the favorite, it's that he's a genuine puzzle.
Chimaev proved what we all thought a long time ago, that he's the best in the world. I'm so excited to see what the future holds for Boris, the Wolf, the new champion. Tonight, a king was crowned from the United Center.
As we look for what is potentially next, we've got Kyle Barallo, and he is taking on Imanov in 3 weeks. Do you believe that that is likely the #1 contenders match?
For sure, both guys are strong guys and good fighters. I will work with both guys. They know my level of grappling and how good I am, you know, so I know how good they are. They're good fighters.
If you prefer the ranking route, Paris is about to speak. Nassourdine Imavov and Caio Borralho didn't ask for a spotlight fight in their backyard and adoptive backyard respectively, they built toward it. Imavov is the kind of lanky technician who turns space into a weapon. Long jab, slide counters, a patient read that grows nastier as minutes pass. Borralho is different. Southpaw lanes, upper body throws off over hooks, body lock trips that steal a minute before you realize it. They're both good, they're just good in different ways, and both will claim they've seen Chimaev's takedown chains before. That's why the Paris main event isn't just a fight, it's an audition. But Paris is only part 1. Part 2 is the calendar. The UFC loves momentum, and Abu Dhabi loves big nights. UFC 321 on October 25 already has heavyweight fireworks loaded at the top, and when executives look at a willing, healthy champion who just rolled 5 rounds, they start doing math. Would medical suspensions and travel make it messy? Maybe. Does a co-main in the desert with the new middleweight champ sound like the kind of thing they'd at least try to pull off? Absolutely. That's why the chatter around a quick return didn't feel like rumor mill fluff. It felt like a real option on the table, if the timing lines up with Paris. Markets noticed timing too. Odds makers didn't wait to hear the walk-on songs. Early numbers skewed heavily toward Chimaev against either Imavov or Baralho. And while betting odds aren't gospel, they are a readout of what the public and the pros think about stylistic matchups. In plain English, the books don't see techie footwork or crafty chain wrestling beating relentless pressure combined with freakish balance and gas tank. They see those tools stalling him for moments, not for 25 minutes. If that sounds harsh, it's because this division just watched what 25 minutes really means when Borz gets a grip. And yet not everyone was doom and gloom. Israel Adesanya, whose eye for timing and risk management is as sharp as anyone's, watched the same fight and praised how tidy the cardio and control looked for Chimaev, the way each minute compounded the next. When a champion says the division is in good hands, that's not politeness. That's a veteran reading the room. Still, there's always noise after a title fight. Sean Strickland popped up with training room stories and an out-wrestling claim, and the reaction was what you'd expect. A lot of smirks, a few memes, and Chimaev himself chuckling at the idea. The truth is simple. The gym isn't the cage, and winning exchanges on a Tuesday afternoon doesn't erase what everyone saw on Saturday night in Chicago. Trash talk and sell a fight, it can't sell revisionist history. So what would it actually take to make Chimaev blink? First, someone has to deny the strongest layer of his game, that first clean connection from distance to hips. You can't be late on the underhook and expect to work later. Later doesn't arrive against him. And second, when the takedown lands, and odds are it will, you need live frames and disciplined risk. The panic stand-up he hunts is exactly what exposes your neck, the desperate bridge is what opens mount, and the sloppy turn is how you gift the back. De Ridder's advocates argue he won't do any of that. He'll peel the hands, arch to the far hip, and threaten enough to force a reset. Imavov believers will say the antidote is never letting the line collapse in the first place, building jabs and feints that send shots to empty space and punish the entry with counters. Baralho backers will say it's body lock on body lock, put Chimaev on the fence and make him work where he usually rests. All three are clean theories. The question is whether anyone can hold that discipline from the first minute to the 25th minute. There's a darker layer too, mental taxation. Dominators usually look invincible right until someone refuses to break on schedule. That's why the 5th round of a lopsided fight matters. It's not that a late rally would ever flip a 10-8, it's that a champion under fire in round 5 has to show he knows what it feels like to be human again. Elbows that sting, a choke that's almost there, a moment where the margin thins. Chimaev passed that check in Chicago, and the footage is now a scouting report for everyone else. If you're coming for him, you come with a minute 1 plan and a round 5 answer. And then there's the business reality. UFC titles don't exist in a vacuum, they live on schedules, broadcast windows, arena deals, and momentum swings. The cleanest path is the Paris winner getting the call. But clean paths get messy when 2 men go 5 hard rounds and both need time. That's how wildcards happen. Opportunists in shape, planes to Abu Dhabi, and short notice chaos. If the phone rings and a middleweight can make weight with a real camp behind him, Abu Dhabi could turn into a proving ground nobody expected. So who actually makes sense? If you want intrigue and skill parity on the mat, you say Reinier de Ridder because he offers the most stubborn resistance to the phase where Chimaev wins fights. If you want the merit-based answer, you wait for Paris because Imavov's discipline and Baralho's approach to grappling are precisely the kinds of questions a new champion should answer to cement a reign. If you want heat, you keep an eye on the trash talkers, but understand why the matchmakers shrug until there's more than a quote. That's the joy of a new era, clarity at the top and chaos underneath. Chimaev didn't just win a belt, he gave the division an ultimatum. Be technically perfect, be mentally ruthless, and be ready to solve a problem most fighters can't even hold still long enough to study. The king has the crown, the calendar has a tempting date circled in Abu Dhabi, and Paris has a pair of hopefuls about to audition in front of the world. Which route the UFC chooses will tell you how they see this reign playing out. Do they keep it strict and orderly, or do they chase the wave while it's tallest? Either way, the message from Chicago was unmistakable. If you're coming for Borz, bring more than claims and clout. Bring answers for level changes you can't see, for wrists you can't free, for minutes that don't stop. Because the margin isn't closing by itself, and the next man up has to be the one to slam it shut. But that wasn't the whole story. In the coming weeks, the Paris main event will sketch the contours of Chimaev's first defense, distance mastery versus clinch-to-mat trickery. And the Abu Dhabi clock will keep ticking. If a healthy champion can be placed, it happens. If the Paris winner needs time, the door opens for plan B. Either way, the division is forcing a reveal. Is there anyone who can keep this fight where they want it for longer than a round without paying double in the next? We just watched a champion choose certainty over flash for 5 rounds and steal the oxygen out of a fight. If the next challenger can't steal some of it back, early, often, and on purpose, this reign gets longer fast. Who's the one who doesn't blink first? Imavov, Baralho, De Ridder, or total curveball? Drop your pick and why. I'll be reading the best takes and turning them into the next breakdown.